My Adventures with Superman is my absolute favorite superhero show right now. Sure, it doesn't explore darker themes of superhero comics like Invincible, outright parody those same tropes with the boys, or have an expansive universe like the MCU. What it does have is Superman saving a kitten from a tree, and that's worth at least 10 MCU movies to me. In an era obsessed with deconstruction, gritty reboots, and meta commentary, I love this show for having Superman be unapologetically excited about saving people. There's an infectious optimism to how the show handles the character that I feel like so many have forgotten thanks to Snyderverse and Injustice. The fact that it's charmingly animated and performed is just a bonus. There's another reason why I love My Adventures with Superman, and it's the expanded focus on Superman's friends and family. Not since the late 90s have I seen Jimmy Olsen be so present in an adaptation, let alone a main character. I also adore how it explores Lois Lane as a young, overeager, and possibly toxic lady. Wink wink. Even the likes of Perry White, Cat Grant, and even Steve Lombard get some screen time in the show. If you say you knew who Steve Lombard was before this show, you're either over 40 or a liar. This laser focus on the rest of the mythos extends to Season 2, and none more so than the introduction of Kal-El's wayward cousin, Kara Zor-El, the future Supergirl.
Let's get this out of the way because the rest of the video will be somewhat serious. They knocked it out of the park with Kara's design in this show. I firmly believe in strong, beautiful women, and Kara fills that Android 18 void in my brain I never knew needed filling. Of course, I wouldn't be making this video essay if my only take was Kara's hot. She is, but what interests me far more is how she's characterized in the show. I won't claim to be the biggest Supergirl expert in the world, but I've always been a fan of the character. People unfamiliar with Kara tend to simplify her as just Superman but a girl, and that's never really been true. Kara's origin story differs from Clark's in one key detail. She remembers Krypton. While Clark goes through his fair share of angst over finding out his origins, he will never understand Kara's longing and trauma because he never really lived on his home planet. In most continuities, Kara is a teenager when her father puts her on a pod away from an exploding Krypton. Unfortunately, Kara doesn't end up with a loving Kansas family. Instead, she gets knocked off course and loses several years in stasis. It's the difference between a baby orphan who's never met their dead parents and an orphan teenager who saw their parents die while their house burned down. Even so, Kara is determined. Her parents task her with one goal, to protect Kal-El, the only other family she had left. She may have lost everyone, but at least she has him, right? But that's not exactly how it shakes out. When Kara finally arrives on Earth, ready to become her cousin's protector, she finds not a baby Kal-El, but a fully grown Clark Kent, a complete stranger. Not only was she too late to raise her cousin, but she found out this Clark Kent flourished without her protection. He's become Earth's greatest hero, Superman. And Kara Zor-El had nothing to do with it. Kara has no home, and the only purpose she was left with turned out to be objectively unnecessary. If anything, the person she was supposed to protect has become her protector. She's stuck on a planet that welcomes Superman with open arms but treats her with suspicion. And why would they trust her? She's not from Earth like Superman is. She's not from anywhere at all. One of my favorite variants of the Kara Zor-El origin story comes from New 52 when she first crash lands on Earth. The military immediately arrives at her location and attempts to bring her in. Kara, understandably, acts in self-defense and tries to ask them who they are. Unfortunately, nobody speaks Kryptonian on Earth, who'da thunk it, and the misunderstanding turns to even more violence. Finally, Superman arrives, but Kara doesn't trust him either. He says he's Kal-El, and yet this is a fully grown man, not the child she remembered. Even his accent sounds like someone who learned Kryptonian from a textbook, as if trying to trick her. All the while, Kara's powers overwhelm her, senses and muscles flooded with untapped strength. Inevitably, their fight brings them to civilization, and she finally realizes how dangerous she's become. The origin story leans even harder into the idea that Kara doesn't belong anywhere. I especially love the focus on Kara's alien nature, her Kryptonian heritage, playing a far bigger role in why she can't assimilate to Earth than her powers ever did. New 52 Supergirl is a much angrier and bitter person as a result, desperate for a return to the home she will never get back. Honestly, even the character's publication history is depressing. For nearly 2 decades, Kara Zor-El was dead in the mainline DC universe, and I don't mean normal comic book dead like Jean Grey. Kara was dead, erased from history in the climax of Crisis of Infinite Earths. I will admit that the arc leading up to Kara's death was well done. I just think it's ridiculous that John Byrne replaced her with an amorphous blob named Linda Danvers, a Supergirl with none of the grit that made Kara so interesting to me in the first place. Sorry to all the Danvers Supergirl fans out there. As for why Kara was dead for so long, it's because the DC editorial team felt she ruined Superman. Many writers felt the presence of a daughter of Krypton made the last son of Krypton seem less special. Superman had to be the only Kryptonian to make him a more tragic and unique character. Do I agree with that sentiment? Hell no. Yes, there's relief in finding lost family, but trauma isn't a contest. Superman's planet still exploded, and the return of one cousin doesn't erase that. If anything, it's a stark reminder of how much they've lost. Unlike Kal-El, these aren't just vague childhood memories or recordings from Jor-El. Kara remembers Krypton for how it really was, and there's a genuine sadness about how Kal-El can never relate to Kara in that way because he's lived too long as Clark Kent. I highly recommend reading Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow if you want a crash course on Kara Zor-El. The story somehow welds the stories of pre-crisis and post-crisis Kara into a chaotic mess of trauma and regret, while ultimately still acknowledging that she's still one of the most compassionate heroes in the DC universe. Loss either breeds bitterness or empathy, and Kara has a surplus of both. Also, if you've ever wanted to see Supergirl get drunk and go on a cosmic bender, beating the crap out of bad guys, this is a great read. Now that I've eased you into the bundle of joy that is Kara Zor-El's history, let's talk more about her depiction in My Adventures with Superman. She's introduced as an adorable fish out of water for most of her introductory episode. She's naturally curious, eager to try new things, and surprisingly friendly. Her interactions with Earth's fearless leader, Jimmy Flamebird, make her endearing to the viewer. But Kara's adorable moments aren't just there for people to fangirl over, it's to lull the viewer into a false sense of security. Most people probably expected Kara to behave like Clark, a naive and clumsy girl who makes a few mistakes but wants to do the right thing. After all, most cartoons and comics tend to characterize her in this way, at least the ones for kids. Subtly, I also do feel this showcases the immigrant diaspora experience, seeing all the wonders of a new land but feeling this longing for the place you were born in. There's a fantastic video from Implicitly Pretentious that delves into that aspect of the Kryptonian story. But back to the episode, the story makes a complete 180 when it's revealed Kara wasn't just there for a family visit. Much like Silver Surfer does for Galactus, Kara studies planets before she conquers them. When she sees Superman committing the horrific crime of starring in a reality TV show, I know, horrible, Kara snaps. Seeing the last son of Krypton forced to show weakness unleashes her violent side. After a one-sided beatdown, Kara kidnaps her cousin and brings him to space to fix what the Earthlings have done to him. Interestingly, the writers decided to give Kara's protectiveness an abusive edge. She truly believes she knows what's best for Kal-El, and if she has to beat the lessons into him, then so be it. Even her outfit reflects her darker character, all sinister blacks and reds. And yet, it's undeniable that the playful and friendly Kara exists underneath the menacing facade. After all, there had to be a time before Kara became so vicious, and she shows those times to Kal-El. She has fond memories of her past in Krypton, and as Kal-El soon finds out, fond memories of every planet she's ever visited, including Earth. She admits that her father sees this as a weakness, yet she continues to remember. Kara will take any happy memory she can get, which makes Clark quickly empathize with her, and they begin talking more earnestly. Kara and Kal-El have a surprisingly good time with each other, despite the whole kidnapping thing. Clark's natural instinct to save people mixed with Kara's need for affection makes for a wholesome yet depressing dynamic. She's more weapon than a girl, and that fact eats away at Kara, especially after seeing how loved Clark is on Earth. When Clark still tries to reach the good in Kara's heart, she can't help but feel swayed. However, the brainwashing of Kryptonian supremacy still festered. To counter Clark's uncomfortable questions, she offers to show him one of the conquered planets to prove how awesome Kryptonian rule can be. Despite the fascist overtones of that offer, Superman joins the ride, though it's not like he had much of a choice. It's undeniable that Kara has drunk the Kryptonian Kool-Aid here. She genuinely believes that what she does is for the best. Conquering isn't hateful to her, it's love. A horrible, overwhelming show of love. Only when they find a planet, it's completely barren. The beautiful cities, the fascinating cultures, and all her good memories were replaced by ash and ruins. And Kara has no idea why. Eventually, Kara's father commands her to come home with Kal-El, and she dutifully obliges. This is where it's revealed her father is none other than Brainiac, the maniacal Kryptonian AI. Brainiac's depiction here may be the creepiest I've ever seen him, and that's thanks to his toxic dynamic with Kara. He constantly talks down to her, and scolds the girl for not following orders to the letter. He never thanks her once for succeeding on her mission, and the moment Kal-El enters the picture, she's become an afterthought. Kara, despite knowing deep down that something's wrong with Brainiac, feels she has no choice. The only family she's ever known was a cold and ruthless artificial intelligence who saw her as nothing more than a tool. Still, she fruitlessly seeks any affection or approval from the machine, and finds happiness in whatever small moments she can. Deep within the brainwashed and violent Kryptonian is a kind and curious soul, a part of herself that Jimmy coaxes out when they first meet. Sadly, it gets worse for Kara from here. Throughout the episode, Kara had random headaches and strange visions. These don't last, but from her reaction, it's clear that they're not good memories. The ending reveals that whenever Kara becomes too disobedient, Brainiac takes control of her to enact horrific atrocities. After the deed is done, Brainiac wipes her memory to convince Kara she's capable of making her own choices. Every planet Kara has ever visited isn't just conquered, it's annihilated, totally and utterly. Even as Kara sees evidence of what she's done, she can't remember any of it, and the scene pans out to show her, clutching her knees and floating alone in the vast cosmos of space. This moment encapsulates the tragedy of Kara's character in the show. A child soldier suddenly aware that everything she knew was a lie. The mementos she keeps aren't comforting keepsakes anymore, they're evidence of what she's done. Kara's memory gaps remind me of how some abuse victims disassociate from reality. Although it's Brainiac inflicting the mind wipe on her, the parallels still work, because Kara still has flashes of memory. Brainiac even reveals she's rebelled multiple times, but her mind was wiped after every incident. Until she met Jimmy and Kal-El, she had no anchor to help her fight back against the brainwashing. Even Brainiac's affectionate moments disgust me. Michael Emerson, Brainiac's voice actor, does a fantastic job as the villain, his voice dripping with condescension and disgust.
I did.
Good. Very good. You will be venerated by all.
And all will become model citizens of the Empire.
It sends a shiver down my spine when he takes over Superman's body and says he's still too weak because he loves Kara.
The worst part, Kara, their weakness infected me. Even now, I hesitate. Because when I see you, I see a child in an escape pod reaching out for me. I love you, my daughter.
Brainiac's dynamic with his adopted daughter explains why Kara treats Kal-El the way she does. The kidnapping, the smugness, the violence, these are the only things Kara's ever known. She unknowingly perpetuated a cycle of abuse onto her cousin because, to her, that's what love is. When Kara finally breaks away from that cycle, it's so satisfying. She confronts her abuser to save the only family she has left from being another victim. Even as he forces her to obey once more, Clark desperately fights for her, even as the odds become insurmountable. What I adore, more than anything, is how Superman never hurts Kara once throughout the entire fight. In one of the stupidest yet most heartwarming moments in the entire series, normal human beings Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen hug a rabid Kryptonian, giving her the love she needed all those years ago. When Kal-El joins the hug, Kara begins to cry, and so do I. The final fight is amazing. Not only does it look beautifully animated, it's so emotional and touches upon the core themes of Kara and Kal-El's characters. Two aliens, different in experiences, but united in loss and love. No matter what her abuser does, using their greatest weakness, throwing her into the sun, turning them against each other, none of it works. Love overcomes all, and even still, Kara's heart hurts from killing the only family she's ever had in Brainiac. While Kara ultimately did the right thing and saved the world with Superman and friends, she still has to live with her trauma and guilt. Her abuser is gone, but it will be a long time before she truly heals. And yet, it's ultimately a hopeful story, because Kara finally found the one thing she craved most: people who loved and cared for her. That theme of love overwhelms all resonates throughout the entire show. Superman couldn't have saved the day without the help of his friends and family. It's such a refreshing change of pace from the barrage of cynicism in current Cape media. Seriously, Jack Quaid is not having a good time in The Boys right now. Overall, I loved My Adventures with Superman Season 2, and a large part of that is Kara's character arc. Hopefully, Season 3 lets us see more of Kara's healing process, maybe a date or two with Jimmy, and of course, more of her in the classic red, yellow, and blue. I'm not gonna lie though, I am not a fan of the new Superman suit. The shoulders are too big, it reminds me of World of Warcraft pauldrons. That said, I think Kara's suit bangs. Look at that scarf, it's badass. Anyways, thanks for watching my video. I normally do shorts, but I couldn't find a feasible way of ranting about Kara in only a minute. I truly thank you for taking time out of your busy day to watch me rant about a white woman from outer space.